You probably noticed your flight cost more this summer. Not a little more. Airline fares are up about 26.5% from a year ago, while prices across the economy rose about 3.5%. So you assume it's fuel or demand or corporate greed. But here's the number nobody puts in the headline. Last year, American Airlines took in almost $55 billion dollars and kept 111 million of it. That's about $2 out of every thousand. So where does the money in this business actually go? Your seat isn't what your airline is really selling, and the customer it cares about most isn't on the plane. Let's start with the thing you already know. Airlines give you miles, you fly, you swipe a card, a number goes up in an app, and someday you trade it for a seat. It feels like a discount program. A little thank you for loyalty. It isn't. It's a factory. Here's the part that changes everything. An airline can create miles out of nothing. There's no mine, no warehouse, no supply. They just decide a number exists. And then they sell that number in bulk to a bank. That's the whole mechanism. Chase buys miles from United, American Express buys them from Delta, Citi buys them from American. The banks pay real cash upfront at roughly a penny per mile and then hand those miles to you as credit card rewards and sign up bonuses. The bank gets a reason for you to put your groceries, your rent, your dentist bill on their card. The airline gets money today for a seat it might give away years from now, or never, if you forget. If that sounds abstract, think of it like a coffee shop that figures out it can sell gift cards to a bank. The bank buys $1 million worth of gift cards in one go and hands them out to its customers as a perk. The coffee shop has the cash today. It hasn't poured a single cup. And here's the twist that makes the airline version of this so much better than the coffee shop version. The airline also gets to decide, later, how much coffee the card is worth. Think about how good that business is compared to flying. A plane costs hundreds of millions of dollars. It needs fuel, gates, mechanics, pilots, de-icing, insurance. Weather ruins it. Fuel prices ruin it. One bad quarter ruins it. Selling a number to a bank costs almost nothing. And the money arrives whether or not the plane ever leaves the ground. So which one do you think became the real business? Now the numbers, and these come straight from the airline's own filings. Last year, American Express paid Delta $8.2 billion dollars. That's up 11% in a single year. In that same year, Delta's entire operating profit, everything left over from flying millions of people around the planet, was $5.8 billion dollars. Read those two numbers again. The check from one credit card partner was bigger than the profit from the whole airline. American Airlines is even starker. It collected about $6.2 billion dollars from its card and loyalty partners. Its profit for the year after everything was that 111 million on almost $55 billion dollars of revenue. That's a margin of about 0.2%. You could round Americans' profit from flying to zero and barely be wrong. The credit card money is roughly 4 times what the airline itself earned. There's one more wrinkle that makes this even sweeter for the airline. The miles sitting in your account aren't quite free money for them. They show up in the accounting as a liability, a promise of future travel. But it is the friendliest debt in corporate America. It charges no interest, it has no due date. A meaningful chunk of it simply expires or gets forgotten in an app by someone who changed jobs and stopped flying that route. And the airline is the one who decides how many miles a seat costs, which means it can quietly shrink what it owes you without ever sending you a letter. And if you want proof that the airlines know exactly which half of the business is valuable, look at what happened when the world stopped flying. In 2020, planes were empty and airlines were desperate for cash. United went to Wall Street and borrowed $5 billion dollars. What did it put up as collateral? Not planes, not airport gates, not landing slots at Newark. It pledged Mileage Plus, the frequent flyer program. And in the paperwork, United valued that program at nearly $22 billion dollars. Sit with that. In the worst crisis in aviation history, the thing lenders wanted, the asset with a solid appraisal on it, was the points. The airline mortgaged its loyalty program to stay alive. I finished paying that debt off just last year. If you like having this stuff decoded for you, that's the whole channel, one everyday thing every week that you'll never look at the same way again. So here's why any of this shows up in your life. When the profitable customer is a bank, the airline starts optimizing for the bank. And you can feel it in 4 places. First, the seat gets taken apart. If the ticket itself barely earns anything, every piece of the trip becomes something to sell you separately. Your bag, your seat assignment, boarding earlier. Checked bag fees alone brought American, United, and Delta over $1 billion each in a recent year, and several airlines raised those fees again heading into this summer. Second, your miles quietly get worse. The airline controls both sides of the trade. It decides how many miles you get and how many a seat costs. When it needs better margins, it doesn't announce a price increase. It just makes the award seat cost more miles. One industry research firm estimates the value you actually get back from these programs has fallen by roughly half since 2019. Same points in your account. Less airplane. Third, status stops being about flying at Delta, American, and United. The currency of elite status is now dollars, not distance. How far you fly barely registers. What counts is what you paid. And credit card spending can carry you a long way up that ladder, in some cases, nearly all of it. Does that sound like a program built to reward travel or one built to reward swiping? Spending is the product. Fourth, and this is the one that stings this summer, the airline has less reason to fight for your fare. When the loyalty and card business delivers billions reliably, and fares are climbing anyway because seats are scarce, cutting prices to fill a plane looks a lot less appealing. So, what do you actually do with this? Nothing dramatic. Just stop treating miles as money. Before you book with points, check the cash price of that same seat and divide. If your miles aren't buying you at least a cent and a half of travel each, pay cash and save them for a flight where they're worth more. Judge a travel card by what its miles actually buy on the routes you fly, not by the size of the sign-up bonus. And when a fee shows up where something used to be free, you know what it's for now. It's not nickel and diming for its own sake. It's a business that quietly decided the seat is the least interesting thing it sells. Here's the one sentence to take with you. Your airline isn't really in the business of moving you from one city to another. It's in the business of manufacturing miles and selling them to a bank, and your flight is the excuse that makes the miles feel valuable. That doesn't make flying a scam. Airlines do still make money carrying passengers. But when the most dependable profit in the building comes from a credit card partnership, the airline slowly reshapes itself around the partner who pays best, and that partner isn't in seat 26B. If you want one everyday thing decoded like this every week, subscribe. Penny will be here. And if this sounded familiar, it should. It's the same trick in a different uniform. Go watch how Costco actually makes money, where a company sells you food at cost and makes its profit on something you never even think of as a product. Once you've seen it twice, you'll start finding it everywhere.